everybody, and welcome to another episode of Carolyn Talks Television. I'm Carolyn Topal, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Rachel Arnett.
Hello, how is everyone doing?
As you can see, we are definitely dressed for summer, and fortunately, so far humidity has kept itself in check.
My hair is staying in its relatively calm state. I'm crossing my fingers, knocking on wood, holding my breath.
Okay, well, I could use some curls, so I'm waiting for the humid. But anyway, the other thing I do when it's humid especially is I take advantage of a good excuse to stay indoors. But now we have friends and family who have children, and Rachel is a package with a child.
I am.
So I was thinking, what are some of the things that you watch with kids where either the kids won't run screaming from the room, why are you torturing me? Or you won't run screaming from the room, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, please turn it off, or I can't watch with you.
Yeah, it is hard still, I think, to find shows that Zach and I can watch together that are really fully engaging both of us at the same time. You know, a lot of older Disney content, you know, even the movies that I grew up loving, it's just not connecting with Zach in the same way. Some of the big classics, The Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, Aladdin, like the big movies do, but TV is really hard.
Well, especially old Disney TV, you'd have to have whatever they're showing new. And some of new Disney TV, while I enjoy it, I don't enjoy it, all of it as much.
Yeah.
As an adult watching for the first time.
Yeah, and I love a lot of the Marvel content on Disney Plus, but I just don't feel, so Zach is 9, I don't feel like he's just quite there yet.
Yeah,
so
that would be a little bit dramatic and
yeah,
traumatic.
Exactly. We have been watching some Netflix shows though.
Well, you'll have to tell me about them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with 2 shows that take us from one side of the world to the other. Okay? The first show I'm going to start with is, as far as I'm concerned, classic children's television, Sesame Street.
Oh, there is not a child I knew growing up that didn't know the theme song.
There's not a parent I doesn't know it either.
And the fact that it's been ongoing now for so many years.
Yes, well over 50, probably approaching 60 soon.
Yeah.
I realize it is on HBO, but there's a lot of ways to get it. Look at YouTube. I didn't say that. Look at YouTube. I didn't say it again.
Hear anything.
But the new Sesame Streets, or even older ones.
I think PBS still shows all of the ones from when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah. I would definitely say was so easy. It's a natural for parents and children to watch. It's a natural for grandparents and children to watch. It was a natural for babysitters and children to watch.
Yeah.
You have a kid near you, put on Sesame Street. It has one of the most wonderful, warm, loving messages, and it delivers it, especially with the characters they create, on multi-level. So I remember watching it with my children as they got older and laughing my head off sometimes. Where all they were doing was enjoying the skit of the day or what they were doing or the song.
There was periodically a little bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not necessarily as much as the Muppets, because I think the Muppets was a little more like aware of its tongue-in-cheekiness.
Well, that's why the Muppets were on prime time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the 7-year-olds might watch it, but the 4-year-olds were in bed, kind of thing.
Yep. But Sesame Street,
totally.
Just, like you said, it's wholesome, educational, music, light, sound, just really engaging.
I mean, one of the things I still remember lovingly and laughingly was there is a classic movie, I believe it's Hitchcock, I apologize if I'm wrong, called The 39 Steps.
Oh, 39 Steps.
It was dark. I believe it was black and white.
Sounds like Hitchcock.
And it was creepy.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And Sesame Street took that, gave it to the Count, and he literally slowly in the dark with different shadow angles walked up 39 steps. That was the whole thing. While I'm laughing, my kids are counting. I mean, how perfect could you make a balance at multi-level?
Yeah, there are references to older materials that we would get and parodies that they wouldn't get.
And Monster Piece Theater. I mean, just so many things that adults could watch with young children, and everybody enjoyed the show. Nobody was sitting there saying, when can mom go now and watch her mom show? It didn't matter. And the other one I'm going to take literally halfway around the world now.
Okay, other side of it.
Other side of the planet, to Australia. And a little show called Bluey.
Which is, by the way, everywhere, not just Bluey is on TV, obviously.
Yes, it's on the regular Disney Channel. So if you get cable, you got Disney already.
But I see there are YouTube edits. My high school students love Bluey on TikTok. Like on top of the show itself, which, by the way, I've never seen a full episode of, but know that I love the show just based on the TikToks that have come out.
And I will tell you, I've seen the show when my family was at Disney World not too long ago. My son liked Bluey. So in the morning before we left for our day in the park, I would put on, because let's face it, you're in a Disney resort, there's the Disney Channel, I'd put on Bluey for him. And found myself stopping and getting ready to get going, because I was looking, there are these little 15-minute shows.
Yeah, I didn't know at first that they were shorter episodes, so I really don't know what my excuse is. That's going to be one of my, I'm going to go home tonight and just watch them all.
Watch them. Well, there's a lot.
Maybe not them all? Okay.
Watch 2 or 3, you'll be fine.
Okay.
And I'll tell you something. What they do is the reason it works for adults and children of all ages is it has a family of 4. Bluey's a dog. They're puppies. They're doggies. I think they're an Australian breed, probably. I don't know. I don't know that much detail. But all I know is there's a mom, a dad, big sister, little sister. Bluey's the big sister. And they take real situations, and in the process of teaching the children a lesson on how to deal and cope with certain things, they also demonstrate the flaws parents have. So the solution isn't always what the first thing the parents come up with.
I appreciate that, because one of the other shows I used to watch with Zach, The Amazing World of Gumball, which was on Cartoon Network, had a very similar with the parents. It felt like in kids' TV shows, the parents were either perfect or perfectly stupid, and like almost the villain of the story. Like they just didn't get their kids. And it sounds like in Bluey, and in the clips I've seen, that the parents are, I was going to say they're really human.
Human, I know, that's
they're
right.
Very dog. They're really very dog.
But they're great.
Yeah, they're more completed characters.
And not always, although most of the time, mom is the one who sees the flaws that the dad is coming up with, because the dad is more impulsive when he comes up with a solution, where she thinks about it and says, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, sure, it'll work. But she also doesn't become the know-it-all in an inappropriate way either. It's the beautiful, delicate balance. And I watched it and I thought, wow, oh my, this is cute. And has a purpose.
Yeah.
Not just to fill my screen with animation for 15 minutes and babysit my kid.
It was very interesting. The first time I ever heard of it was someone posted a TikTok saying that they had found a new show that was healing their inner child. And the whole idea of it, as they said, was essentially that their parents weren't perfect, and there were things that their parents did that impacted them, but they had never really been able to have the conversation. And seeing the ways in which the dog parents on the show interacted with their children allowed them to kind of see what they thought was missing, have conversations, brought up things they didn't even realize. So as they're enjoying and they're laughing because it's silly, and there are memes. Like I said, I've never seen the episode, but I know it's an airport. An airport.
An airport. Yes.
It's like a whole TikTok series of memes of the younger sister saying airport.
Oh my God, that's so
it's
cute.
bringing Generation Z and millennials lots of joy.
Well, I love a good Australian accent. Thank you to several adult actors that I enjoy. And when I say adult, like I'm thinking, ooh, Hugh Jackman. Anyway, he's not in a children's show as far as I'm aware. Rachel.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that. Yeah. So
you've shared a few with me since you are the experienced mommy du jour.
So with Zach at this age, some of his favorite shows, he doesn't necessarily have the attention span always for a long series. Although I will say he ate up Netflix, I think it was on Hulu, the 2015 Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is 3 books, so it's 3 seasons, 30 minutes each. He ate that show up.
What is that show? I've never even heard of it.
So the premise is that there are different people who can manipulate the elements in different ways. So there's magic, but there's also a little bit of romance. There's friendship. There's betrayal. Like it's an anime series, and it's really wonderful.
Oh, okay.
And being that it is an anime show, and like many cartoons, it has motifs and themes behind it. So we would have discussions about friendship, and we would have discussions about what bravery means, and we would also just make a lot of wild gestures and pretend we could manipulate fire and air. And
so you had fun with the show as well as he did.
Yeah, you can have fun. It reminds me, it's not at all. It is. Hear me, it is not Captain Planet at all. But it struck something in my mind of like playing with different elements, and so I think it enables kids to be creative and envision themselves a part of this world. Which type of airbender or firebender or waterbender would you want to be?
I like that. I like when you're talking about the elements and things like that. That's very interesting. Okay,
like
and give us another one of yours.
Okay, so on Netflix, it was a very short series that I think they've only had 1 season so far. Is It Cake? Is the name of the show.
You mentioned that name of that show, and all I thought about is, if it's cake, can I have it? Go ahead.
Yeah. So Is It Cake has kind of sprung out of a few different internet memes that came about where someone who is a realistic cake baker would be sitting there like holding a baseball, pretending that they were going to throw it, and then they actually just take a bite out of it and it's cake. Or a series of different cakes, a telephone, and then you see someone cutting through the telephone. A frog, and you see someone cutting through a baby, and you see and each time you're like, no, God, okay, it's a cake. So on the show, it's a competition show where the bakers have to pick different objects and create cakes that look just like them. They then put them out on a platform with different other real life things of those items, and it's the goal of contestants, there are 2 every episode, to figure out if that cake is cake or if it is in fact a bowling ball.
Oh, wow.
A bowling pin. There were purses, there were dinosaurs, there were red Solo cups. I mean, so you get baking show from it because you see them putting the creations together. Zach was learning about painting rice paper and crepe paper and making gelatin. So it's got the baking show piece, but then it also has just kind of the silliness of I can't remember the host's name, but he's on Saturday Night Live. And he just added all of this over intense gravitas to the show in a very silly way. Okay. And it just, we would watch an episode every couple of days, and we would sit there and be so engaged trying to figure out.
All right, now just for the record, folks, I don't have a child living at home, but I am now engaged in the idea of watching Is It Cake? It sounds like it's a lot of fun. Yeah. For kids to watch with their parents, for anybody, any age, to watch together and get something out of.
Yeah, and even if all you get is the last 10 minutes when they're trying to figure out if it is in fact cake or not, you will be guessing, and you will probably be wrong most of the time. They are amazing. Wow. Bakers. I think I got maybe 3 right over the course of the whole show.
Okay, now that's really fun. So good. That's really fun. And now I'm going to do a couple of things that I don't think you'd think to mention. Yeah. I'm going to do one that's current, or 2 that are current, that I'm sure all of you have seen, and we've talked about Young Sheldon. Yep. And while the kids I'm thinking about wouldn't have been necessarily old enough to really get involved in the Big Bang Theory. In the background, they may have seen the show if their parents watched it.
They may have seen a rerun or clips from it.
But
too.
the idea of a prequel, and where the protagonist is a kid who's got genius intelligence and yet is on the spectrum. I mean, gee, how many kids like that are there out there? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if that numbers go that high. So, you know, even if the children are not necessarily geniuses, so many people realize that the spectrum, as we call it, is broad. It's a broad spectrum. And there are many people who, if they're not geniuses, do have certain splinter skills that are outstanding. So I think it's very engaging. Watching this young man is going to be great. It's going to be great for kids to see a kid taking charge and making mistakes.
Well, and I think not necessarily this show specifically, but there is kind of historically this format of this like ultra precocious kid who, because of her precociousness, the kids find her very funny or him very funny because they get into it. So I'm thinking of like Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, yes.
I'm thinking of even Dennis the Menace, genius in his own way.
Right.
Blossom.
Right.
There's kind of this history of Doogie Howser. There's another one.
But here you see things where the child is not always pleasant to watch. Sometimes he's the one who's going to have to learn something to make it right. The parents, also flawed but well-intentioned. There's even grandmas involved and siblings involved. A great show for a parent to watch with kids. Any age kids, all the kids.
There's one show that I have not started yet, but I want to watch it because, so I remember watching The Wonder Years when I was younger with my parents.
Okay.
Because for them, there was the nostalgia element.
That's right.
And for me, it was just like funny stories about a kid doing funny things that I didn't get the greater context of, but you know, he fell off his bike and then he said this embarrassing thing and we hear his inner monologue. And I'm actually curious, I have not yet seen the remake of it, but I wanted to start watching it this summer to see if it was something that I felt was Zach appropriate, because then we can have kind of that same thing, but he would probably relate.
Correct. And the Wonder Years, as I understand, the focus child is middle school.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think that might work.
Because even younger kids can still relate to that middle school.
I mean, I think a 4-year-old would just like maybe giggle and not know what they're looking at. Right. And the other show that's a completely different idea, and I thought of because, as many of you may have already heard, and if not, bulletin, Pat Sajak is retiring next year at the end of next season of Wheel of Fortune. And watching interviews with him, he shared some of the interesting things about Wheel of Fortune. And one, you know, I thought about, as my kids were growing up, it was fun to watch with my kids because many kids can spell. I mean, it's really about figuring out, if you have this blanks in the word, what's the word? What's the word? What's the phrase?
They don't necessarily know the phrase, but they can figure out the words.
The words. And frequently their phrases are not really phrases anymore. They're just sentences. They've kind of run out. I mean,
they're done with the phrase book.
They're done with the phrase book. They do things like,
together.
It's June, it's June, it's June. I mean, that's what they're calling a phrase.
Baskets in the back. Like, what? All right.
Yeah.
They heard somebody say it one time, and they were like, that sounds like a phrase.
That sounds like a phrase, right? So, but that's a really fun show because apparently he got several letters saying Wheel of Fortune taught their child either their alphabet or how to spell. And I thought, you're right. Because I know I used to be really impressed when my kids would get the answer before I did.
Yeah, Zach's now finally at that age where he can start playing along, and he may not, like you said, he may not be able to get the whole sentence, and he doesn't really have the, you know, the context of what that phrase may be, but he can recognize now okay, this one letter we don't have, but what could the word be? And he's getting quite a few right.
I would believe that. I would believe that. And that was another thing I thought, you could really sit down and just watch some Wheel of Fortune shows with a kid. And of course, it's actually not targeted to children, so you as an adult would enjoy it. But then it challenges kids who are elementary school and above.
Yeah, I like that. I wouldn't have thought about that, but we do enjoy watching that together.
There you go. Okay. Tag, you're it.
Another one for me. If you have not yet seen the show Lego Masters, they've done 3 seasons, and so typically they'd be announcing a new one soon. I love Lego Masters. The premise behind the show is it's a competition of people who build tremendous, amazing things out of Legos, called MOCs, my own creation. And
oh, they're your own creation ones?
yeah, so they're their own creation.
Oh, so that it's not like the kit.
Oh no, it is not a kit. So they have a room that is full of different units where they pull out and they're like, I'm looking for 75 1x6 reds, but they design.
Oh my God.
Like, so one of the challenges was to create space characters and know that when they dropped it, it had to blow up make it look really cool when it fell apart. So what they are able to come up with.
By the way, as a kid, that would have been a lot of fun to watch.
I love building Lego kits. I am not someone who can necessarily look at a pile of Legos and go, oh, a helicopter. Zach is better at that than me. But you watch the show, and I've literally actually cried, which is a little embarrassing, but you learn about the people who are behind the builds and how this is their expression of their artistic experience.
Very neat.
And
very
it is
neat.
And it's also just incredibly wholesome. They're all very supportive of one another.
Oh, okay. So
there's a little bit of drama here and there with like people who aren't getting along while they're making the build because they're friends, so they spend a lot of time. But it's just overall probably one of my favorite shows. And when they reveal their pieces, you're truly just left wondering, how are human beings this cool? And it's kind of nerdy, and that's amazing.
I'm thinking in my head, my husband is an engineer. You have to have that kind of brain to be able to anticipate how to put
the challenges.
without the instructions, how to put it together.
One of the final challenges, I can't remember if it was the final challenge in the first season, was to create some kind of bridge or system that would go off from the wall, and only one little piece was on the wall. So they had to connect something that went out like 6 feet from one little piece on the wall. And not only, make something, but make it beautiful and themed. And someone made like a Chinese temple, and I cried. Like, it was
oh
so
my
good.
God.
It was so, the engineering and the artistry is just, it's honestly enjoyable.
And now, just for a little throwback, I'm gonna do a few oldies but goodies.
Yeah.
And age myself in the process, but I did watch some of these with my kids. They were already in repeats, several of them. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with, for younger kids, but I actually enjoyed Arthur on PBS. I love
Arthur.
And they still show the old Arthurs on PBS. Arthur, the aardvark, oh my God, I loved him. I loved the books. When I was a teacher full-time, I read them to my students because they teach wonderful lessons, but they're engaging, and the show's engaging. Yeah. And in my brain, I'm hearing the theme song right now.
And that was another one that was on PBS and then went off the air and is now, or at least it was replayed on PBS. I don't know if that's where it started.
It's replayed. I don't think they're making new ones, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I know that was wonderfully engaging. And another thing, talk about throwback. In syndication's wonderful for people like me who sometimes want to reminisce and also sometimes want to introduce our kids to something that we really loved. And I was a Brady Bunch kid.
That makes sense.
I liked the Brady Bunch. So I introduced my kids to the Brady Bunch, to the point that I still remember my daughter, who had extremely few baby words. She was just, I think like you, one of those kids that when she learned a word, she learned the word. Yeah. And I still remember her saying, "Oh, Mommy, it's time for the Brady Bunch." And I thought, okay, it sure is. And she couldn't read, but she could figure out that it was about that time of day. And I think it would be fun to watch a couple episodes every once in a while with a kid who's never seen it. Would be even more fun. Like, is this for real?
Yeah.
Because nowadays, I think I would just get off on laughing at them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because different shows at different times in your life, you watch differently. So the other show that I was thinking about, which is an older and a newer one, is America's Funniest Videos.
Right.
Which I grew up watching with Bob Saget. And then it was hosted by a few other people, and now it's Alfonso Ribeiro.
Which is amazing.
And Zach and I watched that show, and when I was little, I only laughed at it. Only laughed, constantly. And that's kind of where Zach is now. Whereas now as the adult, I watch it, and I'm laughing, but when like the adults fall off ladders, or like,
You're like,
I'm like, injury. And they're fine.
And now, I have to tell you, Rachel, these shows are great, and I think you have a summer planned. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You certainly have enough rainy day indoor, besides playing games and board games and stuff, if you need that break, to do some like really together watching, not planting a kid. So I'm going to say we're going to have a wonderful summer, and we're going to see you all, finish our summer out. We'll see you all back in September, probably around Emmy time, so keep your eyes open.
Okay.
And for now, happy viewing, enjoy your summer vacations, activities, and a little bit of TV viewing on the side. So
that works for me.
For now, Carolyn Talks Television is gonna enjoy summer. How about a little TV and then the pool?
Yeah, I'm down. I'll go right now.
Let's go.
Okay.